Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, Sami Speaks. As always, I'm your co-host, Jeff Bourgeois, and I have my dear friend, Sami Steigmann, with me. Sami, how are you today?
I am very good. Okay, so right now things are moving along quite well. Have some invitations to speak. Okay, so things are picking up.
I love that. Now, this is a good time to talk about that. So before we hit record, you were talking about the miracle that is you because you don't promote yourself. And you, as you said, you have MD, your media deficiency.
Are you
Um,
recording this?
I am recording this.
Okay, go ahead.
So you commented that you have media deficiency and people just find you. So I'm curious because not that the universe needs to be explained or we need to understand God's will or what have you, but how are these people finding you?
Well, first of all, they find me through my website. The other thing is I've spoken in different places, and they re-invite me. Okay. The third way is by recommendation. So a lot of people, okay, that heard me speak and everything else, okay, they recommend me to some other people that they are looking for a survivor, a motivational speaker.
I love that.
So
Now,
the only thing that I do is when I go to different events, uh, I have business cards and I give them out. So I know that most of the people will throw them away. They don't look at them. But you never know. And sometimes from time to time, somebody remembers me, looked at the business card, and they call me. So I am quite active also uh, in current events, participating in different events. Like, for instance, right now, tomorrow, there will be a mini summit, if you want to call it. Basically, leaders of different organizations getting together and to see how we can work together to fight Jew hatred. Okay,
yeah,
and all of the lie. The okay, so uh, each one that will be there is the CEO or the leader of a particular organization. As far as I know, I'm the only Holocaust survivor, so I'm very well known. But when I participate in different events and people come to me and say, "Hi, Sami, do you remember me?" I'm very honest and I say no. And I have to ask them, "How do you know me?" So that's what they tell me. But it's funny. My memory is not what it used to be, but I'm extremely happy that I can still give my presentations, okay, without a problem. And that is basically my mission, my life.
I love that. And for what it's worth, Sami, I've done a lot of speaking events. And one thing I always tell people is that when I'm on stage speaking, there's one of me. So all of you are going to remember the guy on stage, or, if you're going to remember somebody, it's this guy on stage. Unfortunately, the guy on stage is talking to, in a good day, maybe 50, maybe 100 people.
That's
Um,
all.
I'm
I
saying that's a good day because that's a chance you're going to remember people. But the minute you get over, okay, let's be honest, if I talk to more than 20 people, I start forgetting names the second I shut my mouth. So,
okay. Very good. Well, I don't take notes. I don't write, so my memories gone.
well, and the thing is, you're there to remember your message, and yes, you're probably like me. You remember somebody in the audience, how they made you feel, or if somebody asked a really good question, but again, the odds are good that next day you're going to have another audience and you're going to have another good question. It just, the human brain was not designed. There's actually a British person who studies humanities, and his name's Robin Dunbar, and he's actually concluded that the average human brain can only hold 250 active communication connections. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I could do 250 anymore. That's sort of stretching the bandwidth.
Okay.
So that's my weird little tangent.
Yeah, the only people that I do remember is that the ones that I see them or I'm in contact quite often.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I may, I'm just going to say a shout out. Esther Deutsch brought you and I together, and every now and then she messages me and she says that she watches us on loop and she wants to hear you and I speaking. So we are reaching at least one. We have one very loyal fan, dear Esther. So.
Okay, well, she is my honorary granddaughter.
I love it. I've adopted her. We can't decide if she's my niece or my little sister, but we are indirectly adopted family. So yes, yeah. Love Esther. Right. But she did give me some feedback. She said she loves listening to you and I banter. So thank you to Esther for inspiring this. Now, today's theme, I had a couple of thoughts I want to share, and I'd love your opinion. First and foremost, when it comes to combating Jew hatred or hatred in general, I think you and I agree that education is the path. How did you delineate the difference between being an educator versus a teacher? Because I think that's a key distinction for what we're going to discuss.
A lot of people lump together things that are not the same. Holocaust, genocide, they are not the same. And there are many examples. I was invited as a keynote speaker to speak to teachers, okay, in Atlanta area, okay, teachers from different states. And I never thought of it, but I try to figure out what is the difference between teacher and educator. And I realized that a teacher, that is a profession. You are an instructor, okay? It's something that you do. As an educator, so you have to, many teachers want to become educators. So they have to do some additional studying. And as an educator, that becomes your mission. Okay, it's not anymore just being an instructor or your job. That is your mission. And that is, in my opinion, the biggest difference. I was never a teacher, okay? But I became an educator not because I thought of myself as such, but people used to call me educator. And my father had a saying, if 100 people say, you're crazy, you're crazy. And so many people told me that I'm an educator, so I adopted it. I said, okay, I'm an educator.
You can't fight it if enough people call it to you, right?
Correct. So it's the same thing, like, for instance, with other things that people have called me. For instance, I had students, they called me motivational speaker.
Yeah.
I don't think in those terms. I speak from the heart. I don't have a particular agenda. I don't have a script, and it just comes out naturally.
Well, and I think that's when somebody's living their purpose and they've got a mission, it's bigger than education. It's bigger than, what you've learned. And it's funny because I've done a lot of reading and a lot of study, and one of the terms that people used for Jesus way back in the day was roughly teacher. And I think that's a very different word than the word teacher we have today. As you said, it's a job category or a classification. But when somebody finds their mission, they are going to teach by accident because they're passionate about it. Is that fair?
Correct. Yes.
And it is funny. I would also consider you a motivational speaker, and I know that that's not a label you chose, but as you said, if enough people call you it, you must be it. But I think when we're inspired and we're doing what we're meant to do, we're naturally motivating or inspiring those around us as well.
Okay, here is a good example for it. A person that I did not know her, okay, she sent me a picture, okay, and she lives in LA. She came to New York. She is a model. And as we came and we talked, he says, "You changed my life." And I said, "How?" He said, "Well, I went through a very, very difficult divorce time. And you said something that I will never forget." And I said, "Don't just exist, live." And okay, and she reminded me, and that's why I'm saying, I say many times, I say things that are coming from the heart, but I don't necessarily remember that I said that. And people remind me, and then as I like it, okay,
Yeah.
then I will uh, make it part of my presentation. So my presentations are constantly evolving and changing. So it's not stagnant.
Well, and what I love, and honest God, I wish more teachers would learn this lesson. You tailor it to the audience, and to me, that is the ultimate educator. You let the audience determine the questions that you then answer, which again makes it a more personal experience for everybody. I guarantee every time you speak, it's unique to that audience because of the questions.
Well, the interesting part is that I prefer in person instead of Zoom. Now, just came back on Thursday from Pennsylvania. I spoke to the smallest school that I have ever been at. They have only 50 students, and it's not, okay, one class. Let's assume eighth graders, ninth graders, 10th graders. They have kids. Okay, I had 12 kids. If it's a very small, they have only 50. The whole school has only 50 students, but they had students 8th to 12th grade. Okay,
Yeah.
and it was very intimate, very small, and we talked. And I asked them to ask questions. Some of the kids were shy, did not want to, so I did something else. I got up and I went to each one and I said, "Do you have a question?" And when I asked them, and I was in front of them, okay, all of a sudden they found their voice and they did ask me very good questions. Okay, so it's you have to take away their shyness, okay, because many times they are coming to listen to somebody, but they're not prepared what that person has to say, and they don't prepare themselves what question they should ask because they don't know what the speaker will say.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the last minute, it's not everybody can think that fast. Okay, so I try to find ways to engage the young people. That's why Zoom is very important, because you can reach people in other countries, in other
Yeah.
states. Okay, but it's not very intimate. You cannot really engage them. And for me, my strength is to engage them.
Right. And honestly, I think that's what teachers and educators should hope for, is that engagement. Because again, if they're asking questions from a learning point of view, they're processing it their way, and they're getting clear on how they can embrace it, rather than you lecturing and it's up to them to figure out how this fits, right?
I also found from my personal experience, I don't know if anybody feels the same way. When I ask somebody, okay, when I go to a lecture, I cannot sit there for a full hour and listen.
Yeah.
And I'm fidgety, it's extremely difficult to listen to somebody speak continuously for 1 hour.
Yeah.
However, I found out that by asking somebody a question, the rest of the students are interested.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, what the student asked, and they want to know what I am answering. So that by engaging them, the rest of the students are not falling asleep.
Yeah. And honestly, that's a lesson I think a lot of people need to be reminded. When I was in university, I used to have 90-minute lectures, and studies have proven that the human attention span, I don't know what it is today, but at one point was 20 minutes. And I think when you're allowing time for questions, it's breaking the monotony of somebody lecturing, and it becomes a conversation.
But what I do is, for instance, when I'm saying something, okay,
Yeah.
I also want to know what, okay, and I go to one particular person, I said, and I want to find out from their answer, what did they really hear?
Yeah.
Okay, what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's not for me to telling them how to think. I
Yeah.
want to know how they think.
Yeah. And honestly, I think by doing that, you help them understand how they think. It becomes a virtuous circle of learning when you're giving them the respect and saying, "I trust you to know how to think about this." They feel more involved in the learning. Is that all right? Well,
Okay.
let's switch gears and let's talk about teachers. You and I are going to be building out part of this podcast. We're going to build some resources for teachers. You and I are going to use the word educator materials because that's how we talk. But that could be, obviously for formal teachers who want to have this discussion. But honestly, I'm thinking this could also be, in an optimistic world, group leaders of any kind, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever Scouts, if you're a leader of youth, these are some things and conversations that are worth having. And you know it would be amazing if more people had conversations about ending hate. So what advice would you give to a group leader who is trying to have this first conversation?
Well, number one, you have to start with very, very young people. I have spoken to second graders, to third graders, to fourth graders. Uh, the Holocaust in general is a very difficult subject, even for adults, to understand how it happened, why it happened. But when you speak to very young people, uh, I do not, I just ask them if they heard of the word Holocaust, yes or no. But then, okay, when I talk about, I ask especially very young people, I ask them, have you ever seen anybody bullying,
Mhm.
being bullied?
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids say yes. So my question is, what did you do?
Yeah.
Okay. And that one slowly leads to the conversation to talk about bystanders, to talk about upstanders, okay, that they should become active, to teach them that they have a strong voice, not to be afraid. So obviously, I don't do that with seniors, with high school students or something, but with very young people, you have to speak their language for them to understand, and then you can go into the Holocaust, okay? Because right now they have a concept what hate can do. They have
Yeah.
seen it, they've experienced it, okay? And they said, okay, so uh, during World War II, there was a stage, there was a lot of hate in the world, okay? And a lot of people did not react. And
Yeah.
because they did not react in time and appropriate, things got worse. And this is how you build, the idea of hate, and that you have to treat people with kindness. You have to treat people with respect. One of the questions I ask the students, even high school students, uh, I ask them, who is the most important person in your life? And they tell, my parents, the
Yeah.
teacher. And I said, incorrect. The most important person in your life is you. Okay, it's you. So I tell them, okay, and I ask that student, do you want to be loved? And they say yes. So I say, wonderful. You have to learn to love yourself first. You want to be respected. Learn to respect yourself because you cannot give something that you do not have.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same thing, but I use different words, the same idea, but depending on the age and depending on the group, how reactive they are and everything else. So it's not how should I say, scripted.
Yeah. Sammy, I'm going to share something, and it's funny, but I met a teacher. I'm not kidding. Her official job, she teaches resilience at the school where she works. That is her job. And I met her a couple of times. And every time I met her, it was a lengthy diatribe about how life is terrible and she hates herself and her kids and her students and her job. And I'm like, how are you teaching resilience? And it was one of those, if you don't have it, you can't teach it. And some people would say, oh, that's mean to point out. I didn't point it out to her, but that was my inner dialogue. Was clearly this poor woman didn't love herself, didn't respect herself, and yet part of what she was teaching kids was to love and respect themselves and to be resilient and recover.
Well, okay. On this note, let me tell you something else. Uh, because my father lost so many people, uh, he vowed to himself that he will never set foot in Germany. He will never buy a German product.
Yeah.
Living with my parents, I felt the same way. But now I got an invitation to go to Germany to meet with descendants of high ranking Nazi criminals. So I was very hesitant. I did not know how I will react
Yeah.
emotionally. But at the same time, I wanted to be authentic because it's easy to talk intellectually.
Hmm.
Okay. But I decided to go. And it's probably the best thing that I ever did. And I became friends with a number of them. And I've learned from them things. And we found out they have more in common than differences
Yeah.
by having the conversation and everything else. So That's why it's very important to talk and not to stereotype.
True.
I tell the kids, I don't represent the Jewish people.
Yeah.
I don't represent my parents. I represent myself. So if you like me, does not mean that every Jew is a nice person. If you don't like
Yeah.
me, doesn't mean that everyone is a bad person. And treat each one as an individual, not as a group. And right now, what people like to do is to generalize, and they say Jews. Which Jews? The
Yeah.
Jews from Hungary, okay, are different than the ones from Romania. They're different from the ones in Russia. They're different from the American Jews. Because we adapt to the uh, country where we live, okay, to their culture and everything else. So that's why uh, when people use the word Christians, when they use Muslims, when they use Jews, I don't know who they're talking about.
And I think that's people, you know, whenever I hear the phrase "you people," I cringe because that's somebody who's pausing to generalize rather than taking a minute to say you, because you can talk to me. I represent 100% of me, but I don't represent anyone else. I can speak to them, but I may not speak for them.
Well, when I grew up in Romania, okay, according to the constitution, everybody was equal, but you cannot legislate how somebody thinks.
Yeah.
My name is spelled with two N's, which is the German spelling. So people used to come to me and they used to make all kinds of stupid comments about Jews.
Yeah.
And since I was not afraid to be myself, I used to tell him or her or them, I used to tell them, do you know who you're talking to? I'm Jewish. And their first reaction was, oh, we did not mean you. I meant them. Why not me? Because they knew me.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the quotes they use quite often is, we hate people because we don't know them.
Yeah.
We don't know them because we hate them.
Yeah.
So learn, okay, to treat each person as an individual, and you will find out that, okay, whatever your perception is of that particular ethnic group is totally different on an individual basis.
And I think that's the starting point for understanding, is to recognize I may not like a person, but that doesn't mean I don't like that entire population. And I think a lot of people go straight to that generalization. And it is fascinating because I see it in the corporate world, I see it in the training world. The very worst conversation is one that is started with us versus them. And that's, again, as you said, I know you, I really like you. That doesn't mean I like every single Jew on the planet. It doesn't mean you represent anyone other than my friend Sami.
Correct.
And
So, what my message is, and I think that your audience should understand, we cannot change anybody.
yeah,
The only thing we can do is we can show a different perspective. The change must be made by that particular person. And the
yeah,
best example, my ex wanted me to change, and I was a willing partner. And once I changed the way she wanted, one day she came to me. She said, "You know something? You're not the same man I married." Well, of course not. Okay, you wanted me to change. So, but this is, people have misconceptions. And this is indoctrination, and it's
yeah,
coming from the family, it's coming from the neighborhood, it's coming from the media. And once somebody is indoctrinated, it's almost impossible to bring him back to critical thinking.
Yeah.
And my goal is not to change somebody, it's for them to think for themselves, to think
Yeah.
critically. That is my goal.
I love that. And I think a lot of people don't see the value in that critical thinking. I think we need to really recognize that, and by the way, we have our own biases, but sometimes we need to recognize those biases.
Well, there is a museum in LA called Museum of Tolerance. Okay, and they have two doors. One says, I am prejudiced. The other says, I am not prejudiced. Okay, naturally, most people, okay, will go to the door that says, I am not prejudiced. And to their surprise, the door is locked. So, okay, and this is a nice way, okay, to teach them that all of us are prejudiced. So it's
Yeah.
just a question how we react to it. So it's not what's happening, it's the reaction to traumas, okay, to prejudice, to all of the things. And again, I'm going to repeat myself as I can. This must be taught at a very, very young age,
Yeah.
because by the time they come, let's assume high school, they have been already indoctrinated, and okay, so that's why you see what's happening. The marches in every campus all over the world. In most cases, I will tell you, they are either ignorant or they have no idea what they are talking about and what they are fighting for.
Yeah.
But they have been indoctrinated, and it sounds wonderful. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, he wanted me to talk to Holocaust deniers, whatever, Gen Z. There was a woman from Pakistan, and she said that what's happening in Gaza is genocide. No, yes, okay. So no matter what you said, okay, she did not budge from that concept.
Yeah.
So my friend told her that I am actually an Israeli that served in the Israeli Air Force. She looked at me and she said, "You are part of the problem. I have been in the United States for 60 years. How am I part of the problem?"
Yeah.
Okay, but this is what I mean by indoctrination. She had no concept of critical thinking. And this was a young woman. And that's part of the dilemma that we are facing. And that's why, okay, we have to teach the young people, okay, at a very young age,
Yeah.
okay, about love, about, how to treat other people, how to respect themselves, how to love themselves. Uh, you cannot do it very effectively, at a later uh, period of time in their lives.
And I think let's talk about some of that vocabulary, because this is in fact going to be an educator resource. So there are a couple of things I'm hearing, and I have trouble with ignorance in any form, and especially when people parrot something without actually understanding it. And so there's a couple things I want to pull out and get your take on, because I think this is important. The first thing I hear a lot, and this is the on-campus protests. I had the misfortune of being at my local university one day after protest, and the thing I saw the most was Free Palestine. So I'm going to give you the three I see the most, and then you and I are going to pull them apart. So number one is Free Palestine, which, yes, everybody wants to be free. We'll talk about what that means. The second one was Stop Israel's Genocide of Palestine. You and I are going to pull that one apart. And then the third one is the rant, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it's from the river to the sea. Is that the common
Yes.
rant? Okay. So those are three things you and I are going to pull apart. So what order would you like to tackle those, my friend?
Makes no difference to me.
All right. Well, let's talk about Free Palestine. So first and foremost, the protesters are under the belief that Israel is the oppressor. The what's the word they're looking for? Basically, they've conquered the Palestinians and they're under their thumb. What would you say to that statement?
Well, let me ask you, what does that concept mean to you?
Well, I love that. Now, for what it's worth, I have studied this a lot more, and of course, I've had the privilege of talking to you. The immediate surface that I hear, and I know this is what the narrative they want us to believe, is that in fact Israel has invaded some country called Palestine. That, and again, the myth is that it is a country that's existed from the beginning of time. There's a lot of history that's conveniently omitted. But the other thing, and the part that I struggle with, honestly, is I do believe that people who identify themselves as Palestinians need to be free. However, I also believe that the real oppressor is a terrorist group called Hamas.
Well, okay, you summarized it quite well. Okay, I personally agree. Okay, with Free Palestine.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, but okay, when I'm talking about Free Palestine, is free from the oppression of the terrorist group. Okay, unfortunately, they believe in Hamas.
Yeah.
Hamas is not a stupid group. They're terrorists, but they're not stupid.
Yeah.
And they did something for the Palestinians. Okay, but at the same time, they keep them under their thumbs. Right now, with the ceasefire, okay, they started right now to murder Palestinians. Okay,
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm just laughing at the irony
okay.
of it. Yes.
Okay, and Trump said, okay, that if they continue to do that, okay, if they will not disarm, okay, he will disarm. I don't know how, okay, that's a different story. Very easy said certain things, but the goal of eliminating Hamas has not been accomplished yet with the ceasefire. And peace is an elusive uh, goal in the Middle East. Okay, it will take a long time. Now, uh, what's happening is that most of the people, when they say Free Palestine, they don't know what they are talking about. Okay, like for instance, you have England. I believe Canada also. Canada right now said that if Netanyahu is coming to Canada, he will be arrested, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so France, and they voted the UN. They voted for a Palestinian state, no borders, no government. Okay, nothing. What does it mean? Okay, to recognize a Palestinian state.
Yeah.
That is what I'm trying to say. It's the ideology. It's people are afraid to talk. They are afraid to combat the people because people are forgetting. Right now, everything is against the state of Israel. Guess what? They will not stop there because all they want is the whole world. The next one after Israel, okay, is the United States, and then is the rest of the world.
Yep.
So, and they are infiltrated, uh, as far as I am concerned. And you may disagree with me, but not every Muslim, but most of them, especially the radical ones, they do not want to adapt to the culture of the country where they are. They want their culture. They want to bring their culture to the
Yeah.
country where they are settling, and this is the not the proper, the logical way of things. And okay, so like for instance, here in the United States, there is a city that the second language is not Spanish. It's okay. It's Arabic.
Hmm.
Okay. At the same time, Sharia law is part of the law of that particular city. Okay. So it does not make sense. Okay. If you like the Sharia law, okay, stay where you came from. You come here, you adapt to the American culture.
Yeah.
Uh, but this is one of the things, and people do not, a lot of leaders embrace that idea, okay, because they're afraid of them. They want to be in power. They need the votes, so they give in, and that causes in short terms. Yes, they will be in power, but in the long term, it creates a lot of problems.
Well, and it's interesting, and I apologize for laughing because I find it
You don't need to
fascinating.
apologize, you know.
The Israeli people, what I saw was a nation celebrating return of their family members, and there was joy and dancing, and of course mourning and loss. And then you flip the script, and you look over on the other side, and Hamas used it. I think it was the first day they started executing opposition members in the streets. Um, One of the first things I want to point out that I find amusing is the blanket term peace in the Middle East, because what we think we mean by peace is very different than what's possible. And I think, honestly, everybody at the table who was part of that process had a very different view of what peace means. And, I will pull out what I understand from the Hamas side of the table. Their version of peace is a new world order where you and I no longer exist, or if we exist, we're not free anymore. Is that fair?
Well, not only that we're not free, but we have to convert and to accept, okay, Islam as our culture.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
think
so it's either or. There is nothing in between.
yeah, and how do you have peace when one of the parties at the table says peace equals you not existing?
Well,
It's
well,
kind of hard to negotiate from that point of view.
well. That's what I call indoctrination.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I can talk about the United States. I cannot talk about Canada or any other country. All I can say is that, okay, in this country, there is no education, there is indoctrination.
Yeah.
And it took a very long time to come to this point. It will take a long time to move back to the middle.
I love that. Now, so that's Free Palestine, and it's funny that literally two words, and that's a very complicated subject. We could pick apart free and Palestine and define them.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, freedom from Hamas. Free Palestine from Hamas. Okay.
it's
This is what it is. They use simple things, omitting a lot of the things, the important things is. Are you for a free Palestine? Yes. So say free Palestine from the terrorist group.
yeah, I
Everybody,
can get behind that all day long, right?
right?
If for the record, I would say that about any part of the world. And, honestly, even in North America, we have some interest groups that have their own agendas. I'd love to see, I see my kids. I'd love to see them grow up in a world free of the garbage and bias that is on social media. Now, only I can control that by teaching them critical thinking, but again, I'm not going to come to peace with social media, because my stance is they should be eliminated. So I guess I'm being unreasonable in this negotiation.
Well, don't think negatively about yourself.
That's mostly lighthearted, because I know for a fact I can't fight hatred head on, but I can shine light in the world, and that's all I can do. So that's all I'm going to do. Now let's pick apart the from the river to the sea, because that one, when I see a North American university student chanting that, it really bothers me, because it's like, would you pick up a book? Would you read something? I like to believe, and I might be wrong, I like to believe they don't know what they mean when they say it. So today, Sami, would you please tell us what we mean when we say from the river to the sea, thinking it's catchy?
Well, most of the people do not know which river, they do not know which sea. Okay, but it's a slogan.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
catchy.
it's catchy. It sounds wonderful. They want to belong. Okay, it's a large group of people, so they want to be there.
Yeah,
Some are coming just out of curiosity, but at the same time, okay, it looks like a lot of people
yeah,
believe in that. Uh, but honestly, if you would ask them, what river are you talking about? They have no idea. You ask them what sea, they don't know.
yeah,
So, but it's again, okay, indoctrination, uh, catchy. Okay, that's why I'm saying the Jews have to find a catchy, very short sentence and keep repeating it until it becomes the new norm.
yeah,
But that is not easy to accomplish because Jews are not united. The only time that the Jews are united is in case of danger.
yeah.
Okay, but otherwise, have many organizations fight the same fight, but okay, they have their own audience. Okay, but they're not reaching okay the media and the larger population because they don't speak with one voice,
Hmm.
and that is a major issue that we have to deal with, and that is like I told you, tomorrow when I am going, that is one of my topics that I want to address. How do we unite? Okay, it's been the way we've been for centuries. Okay, how do you change it? And that's a difficult question, and I don't think anybody has a real answer, but we'll try to brainstorm ourselves.
Yeah. And honestly, like if you go back far enough in time, and not that far, um, the quote unquote Jewish people, they were tribes in the desert, and and then they scattered because of pogroms and things like that. To again say they have one voice, it's not, how do I put it? The Jewish people are like a bunch of candles shining their light in the darkness. What you need is a laser that focuses and targets that hatred. Um, but again, it's fascinating. Our dear Esther said it to me once, and I laughed at it. She said, the Jewish problem is one of PR. We have a terrible, terrible ability. We're not able to unite and correct the wrongs, but also, and I think this is part of it, good people feel like it shouldn't have to be said, so they don't say it. But when we all stay silent, that's when the darkness creeps in.
Correct.
Now I want to be mindful of our time here, Sami, so I'm going to wrap up. Is there anything you'd like to say to
Well,
the
you had a third one.
there was a third one? Yes, I will replay the notes. What was the third one, Sami? I should have written that down. It was the sea. Oh, I think it was about the Israelis oppressing Gaza. I think we kind of covered that by accident.
Well, let's remember some facts. Nobody's interested in facts, but let's remember. Palestinians lived in the Middle East. Okay, they are basically Arabs, but
Yeah.
they were thrown out from Lebanon. They were thrown out from Jordan. Very few people remember that the Syrians murdered 80,000 of them. They were thrown out from Egypt. Nobody wants them.
Yeah.
The only people that fought for them were the Jews, the Israelis.
Yeah.
And yet, many times, okay, a benefactor many times is vilified.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same thing. Like they take, for instance, United States. United States saved Germany, rebuilt it, and everything else. Now, United States is vilified, or
Yeah.
if not now, and until Trump. Okay, so okay, you don't want to feel obligated to somebody that saved your life, that saved you.
Yeah.
So this is the same thing as they. There is right now a new concept in the world, and this concept is oppressed, okay, oppressor.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of a relationship between different countries is being oppressed and being in the oppressor. And if you go on that uh, type of thinking, okay, obviously you're going to hate.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's a fascinating discussion. We'll pick that up next time. But Sami, I want to thank you as a fellow educator and somebody who's always curious. I really, really appreciate your perspective because alone we're just one voice, but together we start to shine brighter. So thank you for hanging out with me today.
my pleasure, my honor, and hopefully, okay, that people are learning their lessons and that they will teach, especially their children, okay, to love, okay, and not to hate. Golda Meir said it best, and she said, "There will be peace in the Middle East only when the Palestinians will love their children more than they hate the Jews."
Wow, that just sent shivers down my spine. Thank you for sharing that.
All right.